The sky was a dull, lifeless gray, stretching endlessly over the ruins of what had once been Kale's home. The buildings, once tall and proud, now stood as jagged skeletons of steel and glass, their shattered windows reflecting nothing but despair. Streets lay cracked and broken, littered with twisted metal and scattered belongings. Kale walked slowly, each step heavy, careful not to disturb the fragile remnants of life that still clung to the planet. Everywhere he looked, the echoes of what had been screamed at him, laughter that would never return, lights that would never shine again, and voices of people he had loved and lost. Memories of that day, the day the alien fleet arrived, flooded back in sharp, painful detail. He remembered the initial shock, the fire raining down from ships in the sky, the panic of the civilians and the desperate scramble to survive. And most of all, he remembered the orders to fight, to hide, to escape, but no order could save everyone. Kyle stopped near the edge of a collapsed building. A scorched mural on the wall caught his eye, half burned but still recognizable. It was a mural he had painted with his sister when they were children. A colorful depiction of their dreams, a bright city with parks, skies filled with flying vehicles, and humans and aliens working side by side in harmony. Now it was gray and black, the colors gone, leaving only a haunting shadow of what had been. He knelt and traced a finger over the surface, feeling the roughness of the burnt paint. A sharp wind blew across the ruins, scattering ash like tiny dark snowflakes. Kale's mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions, but one thought dominated all others: revenge. Not blind revenge, not hatred for the sake of hatred, but a burning need to understand why this had happened and who had caused it. From the corner of his eye, he noticed movement. It was subtle at first, a shadow slipping between the wreckage, but it was enough to make him tense. Kyle's hand moved instinctively toward the sidearm at his belt, though he had not fired it in months. He stayed still, watching. The shadow paused, then moved again, careful not to draw attention. Whoever it was, they were trying not to be seen. Then she stepped into the open. Lyra. Kale did not know her name yet, but he recognized her instantly. She was one of the aliens who had attacked his world. Her uniform was crisp, almost too neat for a battlefield survivor, and her posture was rigid, betraying the training and discipline of someone raised for combat. But there was something in her eyes, something different. Hesitation, fear, and perhaps, Kale thought with a pang he tried to suppress, regret. "Stay back," Kale said, his voice low but steady. He did not want to fire first, but he would not hesitate if she moved closer. Lyra raised her hand slowly. She took a cautious step forward, her voice soft. "I mean no harm," she said. Her words sounded almost foreign against the ruins around them. "I only want to speak." Kale did not lower his hand. "Speak, you destroyed my world. You killed my people. What could you possibly have to say?" Her shoulders slumped slightly and she looked away as if ashamed. I know what we did. She paused, struggling for the right words. "I want to apologize. I didn't want this. We were following orders. I did what I was told, but it was wrong. It was a mistake." Kale's grip on his weapon tightened. "You think words can fix this?" he asked, bitterness cutting through his voice. "Do you know how many lives were lost? How many families are gone? How many children never had a chance to live?" Lyra's lips trembled, but she did not argue. She only nodded. I know all of that, and I cannot undo it. But I can try. To help now. To make it right." Kale's eyes narrowed. He remembered the chaos, the screams, the desperate attempts to save even a single life. "Help? How can you help me? You're part of the reason everything is gone." Lyra took a cautious step closer, her hand still raised. "I can help you survive. I know how their ships operate. I know their weaknesses. And if you let me, I can help you rebuild." Kale felt a surge of anger, but also a flicker of curiosity. He had survived this long alone, but survival came at a cost, and he had seen firsthand how hard it was to rebuild from nothing. Perhaps, just perhaps, this alien could provide something he needed. But could he ever trust someone who had destroyed everything he loved? "You think an apology is enough?" he said slowly. "But it's not. You can't erase the pain. You can't erase the memories. And you can't erase the dead." Lyra looked down at the rubble at her feet. "I know, I only want you to know that not everyone on my side wanted this. Some of us saw it as wrong from the start. I am one of them. And She swallowed hard. "I am willing to do anything to prove it." Kyle studied her carefully. There was a sincerity in her voice he could not ignore, but it was tangled with fear and guilt. He had seen this look in other survivors, the guilty, the regretful, but it never brought comfort. Only pain. The wind howled again, blowing dust into the empty streets. Kyle made his decision. Not trust, not forgiveness, not yet. But he could at least listen, at least hear what she had to say. Fine, he said finally. Talk, but one wrong move and I won't hesitate. Lyra nodded, relief flickering across her face. Thank you. I promise. I will not give you reason to regret it. For a long moment they stood in silence, the ruins stretching endlessly around them. Kale's mind was a whirlwind of questions, memories, and unspoken anger. But beneath it all, a small, cautious thought began to grow. Maybe, just maybe, he could use this alien's knowledge to survive. Lyra took a deep breath. I will start by telling you what I know about the remaining forces. There are still ships in orbit. They are planning another strike, but it's smaller this time. If we act quickly, we can stop them. Kale's eyes narrowed. He had survived countless threats before, relying only on his own skill and determination. But this was different. This was an opportunity and perhaps a trap. Lead the way, he said finally, keeping his hand near his weapon. But remember, one wrong move and I won't hesitate. As they moved through the shattered streets together, Kale kept his senses sharp. Every shadow could hide danger. Every sound could signal an ambush. And every step brought him closer to the truth he had been seeking since the day his world fell apart. For Lyra, each step was heavy with guilt and hope. She had made mistakes, terrible ones, and she knew they could never be fully undone. But if she could help Kale, if she could help him survive and rebuild, maybe she could start to make amends. The ruined city stretched before them, silent except for the wind and the distant echoes of past life. And in that silence, a human and an alien walked side by side. Two survivors connected by loss, mistrust, and the fragile possibility of hope. Kale remembered everything. Lyra remembered nothing would be easy. But for the first time since the destruction, a small spark of purpose flickered in both their hearts. The battle for survival, and perhaps for redemption, had only just begun. The ruins stretched endlessly, a silent graveyard of a world that had once thrived. Kale and Lyra moved cautiously through the broken streets, their footsteps crunching over scattered debris. The wind carried dust and ash, stinging Kale's eyes, but he ignored it. His mind was sharp, alert. Every shadow could be hiding enemies, every faint sound a trap. He had survived once. He could survive again. Lyra walked slightly behind him, careful not to crowd his space. Her eyes scanned the surroundings constantly, noting collapsed buildings, broken vehicles, and signs of lingering danger. She had known that approaching Kale would be difficult, but she had not expected the intensity of his caution. Humans, she realized, were far more resilient and observant than most of her people assumed. Kale spoke without looking back. You said there are ships in orbit? Yes, Lyra replied softly. A small fleet. Not as many as the ones that attacked before, but enough to cause more destruction if we are unprepared. Kale's lips pressed into a thin line. He remembered the first attack vividly, the fire raining from the sky, the screams of civilians, the chaos that tore apart his city. He had survived by luck and skill, but the memory of his family and friends lost would never leave him. Why should I trust you, he asked. You were part of the attack that destroyed everything I knew. You could be lying right now, leading me into a trap. Lyra did not flinch. I could be, but I am not. I saw what was happening that day and I knew it was wrong. My people gave me a chance to make it right and I am taking it. I am risking my life by being here with you. Kyle studied her carefully, noting the slight tremble in her hands and the tension in her shoulders. He had seen fear before, but this fear was mixed with determination, a willingness to face danger for a reason other than self-preservation. It was rare and it caught his attention. Then tell me everything, he said finally. Every detail you know. And don't leave anything out. Lyra nodded. We have a few days before their next move. The remaining ships are smaller and slower than the main fleet, but they are still dangerous. They patrol the skies in formations that are difficult to track. If we move carefully, we can reach a strategic point and observe them. That will give us time to plan. Kale's mind raced. He had always relied on his own instincts and training, but he knew that intelligence was the key to survival. Observation is good, he said. But what about the ground forces? There could be patrols, scouts. We need to be ready for anything. Lyra nodded again. I know their strategies. I can guide you through the safest paths. But you have to listen to me completely. One mistake and it could be the end. Kale's eyes narrowed. I follow my own rules. You'll have to follow mine too, she said calmly. This is about survival, not pride. The tension between them was thick, but necessity forced them forward. Kale led the way, scanning the ruins for threats while Lyra provided guidance about hidden patrols and safer routes. They moved in silence for hours, only speaking when necessary. Kale was learning to read her expressions and body language, and Lyra was learning to anticipate his reactions. It was an uneasy partnership, built on mutual need rather than trust. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the city, Kale spotted movement near the horizon. A patrol of alien drones, smaller and faster than the previous fleet, hovered over the streets, scanning for survivors. He signaled Lyra to stop, crouching behind the remains of a collapsed building. They're scanning for life signs, Lyra whispered. If they detect us, they'll report our location. Kyle nodded, his hand resting lightly on his weapon. What's the plan? Lyra pointed to a narrow alleyway. We can slip through there. The drones won't detect us if we stay low and move quietly. Follow my lead. Kale hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He trusted her judgment, not her loyalty, but her knowledge of the enemy. They moved slowly, crouching low, hearts pounding. The drones passed overhead, their sensors glowing faintly, but they did not detect the two figures weaving through the shadows. Once they were safely past the patrol, Kale allowed himself a brief moment of relief. You were right, he said, his voice low. Good thinking. Lyra gave a small smile, but it was tinged with sadness. It's not enough to survive, she said softly. We have to fight if we want to protect what remains. Kyle looked at her, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. He had survived alone for months, relying on his instincts and strength, but he knew that facing the remaining alien forces would require more than that. Strategy, knowledge, and allies, reluctant or otherwise, were essential. As night fell, they found shelter in the remains of an old building, its walls scarred by fire and battle. Kale set up a small perimeter, scanning the streets for movement, while Lyra examined maps and data she had memorized from her people. I need to know everything about them, Kale said, his voice firm. Their ships, their weapons, their patrol patterns, their weaknesses. Don't leave anything out. Lyra nodded, her eyes serious. I will tell you, but you have to listen carefully. Some of this information may be hard to accept. It may change the way you see them, and even me. Kale's jaw tightened. I've already seen enough. Just give me the facts. For hours, Lyra explained the remaining alien forces, their strategies, and their weaknesses. Kale absorbed every detail, his mind working like a machine, planning, calculating, preparing. Despite his anger, despite his memories of loss, he felt a spark of something he had not felt in months. Hope. Not for the world as it had been, but for survival, for resistance, for the chance to fight back. When she finished, Kale stood and looked out at the city, silhouetted against the faint light of distant stars. We can do this, he said finally, but it won't be easy. And I won't forget what happened here. Not now, not ever, Lyra nodded. I don't expect you to forgive me. I only hope you can work with me long enough to survive. Kale's gaze hardened. Survive, yes. But forgive, that's not for now, maybe never. They spent the night in tense silence, both aware of the danger that lurked beyond the broken walls. Kale's mind replayed memories of the attack, faces of those lost, screams, fire, chaos. But he also thought about the future. If they could survive the next strike, if they could fight back and gather more survivors, maybe they could start to rebuild. Maybe humanity could endure. Lyra, too, thought about the future, though hers was heavier with guilt. She had done terrible things, followed orders that destroyed a world. Yet here she was trying to make amends. She knew that Kale would never fully trust her, and perhaps he should not. But if she could help him survive, help him rebuild even a fraction of what was lost, it would be worth it. As dawn approached, the first light of a new day touched the ruins. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of ash and dust. Kale stood at the edge of the building, scanning the horizon. We move at first light, he said. We'll reach a vantage point and observe the enemy. If we're lucky, we'll find a weakness. Lyra nodded. And if we're not? Kale did not answer immediately. He thought about the months of survival, the memories of his lost world and the determination that had kept him alive. "Then we fight," he said finally, "and we survive no matter what it takes." Together they prepared to leave, a human and an alien bound not by trust, but by necessity. The ruins of the world stretched before them, silent and foreboding, and in that silence 2 survivors, one who remembered everything, one who regretted everything, took their first steps toward a dangerous, uncertain future. The encounter was only the beginning. Danger awaited, but so did opportunity, and as the sun rose over the shattered city, Kale felt a spark of determination he had thought lost forever. The human spirit would endure, no matter the odds. The first light of dawn cast a pale glow over the ruined city, revealing the jagged remnants of buildings and streets torn apart. Kale and Lyra had reached a vantage point on a crumbling rooftop, overlooking the streets below. From here, Kale could see the scattered alien drones that patrolled the ruins, and Lyra explained what she knew about their movements. Kale's eyes were sharp, scanning every shadow, every corner, every small detail that could indicate a threat. But while he looked outward, his mind was drawn inward, replaying the memories that had haunted him since the attack. He remembered the screams, the fire, the chaos, and the faces of those he could not save. Friends, neighbors, his sister, even a young boy who had clung to him as the city burned. He had survived, but the cost had been immeasurable. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. "Kale, we need to focus. The drones will detect movement if we wait too long." Kale exhaled slowly, his jaw tight. "I remember everything," he said quietly. "Every sound, every scream, every order we were given that didn't save anyone." Lyra looked at him, her expression both sad and cautious. "I know, and I understand your anger. I cannot take it away. I can only try to help now if you'll let me." Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Try isn't enough," Lyra swallowed. She had expected this reaction, but hearing it spoken aloud cut deeper than she had imagined. "I know it isn't, but the first step is survival. If we die here, nothing will matter. We have a chance to fight back, to prevent more deaths." Kale's gaze shifted to the city below. "Fight back," he muttered. "Yes, but the past is always with me. I can't forget even if I want to, and you were part of that past." Lyra flinched at the accusation, but she did not respond with anger or excuses. Instead, she spoke softly, her voice almost trembling. "I did what I was ordered to do. I followed commands, but I saw the destruction and I realized it was wrong. I am trying to make it right now. I know it's not enough, and I know you may never forgive me." Kale turned to look at her, his eyes hard and unyielding. "Forgiveness? No, that is not something I can give. Not now, maybe never. But survival? That I can consider. For now." The wind blew, carrying ash and dust across the rooftop. Kale clenched his fists, remembering how alone he had been after the attack. He had survived by relying on his instincts, his strength, and his wits. Every day had been a struggle to find food, water, and safety, while the memory of the people he loved haunted him. And yet, despite the pain he had endured, the human spirit, he realized, was not easily broken. Lyra watched him closely, sensing the tension and the storm of memories that Kale carried. "I need to tell you something else," she said cautiously. "There is more at stake than just this city. The remaining forces are regrouping. They may strike again soon, and if we do not act, others could die as we have died." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Others? You mean more innocent people? How many lives were lost because of your orders?" Lyra lowered her gaze. "Too many. I know that. And I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. But we can prevent more loss. We have a chance to stop them." Kyle exhaled slowly, his mind shifting from memories of loss to the immediate threat. The human instinct to survive was strong, and though his anger remained, he knew she was right. They could not linger in the past forever. They had to act. "Fine," he said finally. "We act, but we do it on my terms. I lead, you follow. Any deviation, any mistake, and I will not hesitate." Lyra nodded, accepting the terms. "Agreed. I will follow your lead." The two moved carefully through the streets, using shadows and debris for cover. Kale's mind was sharp, analyzing every possible threat. Lyra provided guidance, pointing out drone patrols, weak points in alien surveillance, and potential traps. Though he did not trust her completely, he could not deny that her knowledge was invaluable. As they progressed, Kyle's memories became more vivid. He remembered hiding in the rubble with his sister as the first wave of ships fired upon the city. He remembered the fear in her eyes, the pleading voice of a neighbor trapped under debris, the desperate scramble to reach safety. Each memory was sharp, painful, and unyielding. Lyra sensed his inner struggle. "Cale, I cannot change the past," she said softly, "but I can help you fight now. We can protect what remains." Cale's eyes met hers. "Protect what remains, yes, but the past will always be with me. It shapes me, drives me, haunts me, and you are a reminder of it." She nodded, accepting the truth. "I am, and I will accept whatever judgment you give me. But for now, we must survive together." Hours passed as they navigated the broken city. Cale's mind remained focused on strategy, but he could not silence the memories that surfaced with every ruined building, every scorched street, every familiar corner. He remembered the families he could not save, the friends who had fought bravely and fallen, the city that had once been alive with energy and laughter. Lyra stayed close, sensing his need for space yet offering support. "We are approaching a high point," she said quietly. "From there we can observe the drones and plan our next move." Kyle nodded. "Good, we need information." Knowledge is survival. They climbed a collapsed staircase to reach the rooftop of what had once been a government building. From here, they could see a wide stretch of the city, the ruined streets and the faint glimmer of alien patrols moving below. Kyle's eyes scanned the area, calculating routes, predicting movement, and assessing the enemy's strength. "See that formation?" Lyra pointed to a group of drones hovering in the distance. "They are scanning for life signs. If they detect us, reinforcements could arrive quickly." Kyle studied them carefully. "We need to move fast and quietly. I'll take the lead, but you guide me through the safest paths." Lyra nodded, impressed by his strategic thinking. "Understood. Follow me, but do not hesitate to act if something goes wrong." The day passed in tense silence as they observed, calculated, and planned. Cale's memories continued to surface, reminding him of the cost of failure and the weight of survival. But for the first time in months, he felt a spark of purpose, not just to survive, but to fight back, to prevent more loss, to protect what remained of his world. As night fell, they found shelter in another ruined building, barricading themselves against potential patrols. Cale kept watch while Lyra analyzed the information they had gathered. The bond between them remained fragile, built on necessity rather than trust, but it was growing stronger with each shared challenge. Cale finally spoke, breaking the silence. "I remember everything," he said quietly. "The screams, the fire, the chaos, the people who died, and the ones who survived. And I remember you too. I cannot forget what you did, but I can use your knowledge to survive. That is all I can offer for now." Lyra met his gaze, a mix of sorrow and determination in her eyes. "I accept that. I do not expect forgiveness, only the chance to help." Kyle nodded. "Then we fight. Not for forgiveness, not for peace, but for survival, and maybe for a future that does not end in ruins." The wind howled through the broken streets outside, carrying the scent of ash and decay. Cale and Lyra sat in silence, both aware of the dangers ahead and the fragile alliance they had formed. The city was a graveyard of memories, but within it, they had found a glimmer of hope. Cale's memories would not fade. They would drive him, shape him, and remind him of the cost of failure. But with Lyra's knowledge and his own determination, he believed survival, and perhaps even victory, was possible. As dawn approached again, the two prepared to move. The next phase of their plan awaited, full of danger, strategy, and the possibility of change. The human remembered everything, and the alien would do her best to prove that she could be more than the destruction she once caused. The story of survival, trust, and redemption was only beginning. The first light of morning revealed more of the ruined city than the night had concealed. Buildings that had once stood tall were now hollowed shells, streets scarred by fire and explosions. Cale and Lyra moved carefully, their eyes constantly scanning the environment. The drones patrolled below, but their numbers seemed smaller than before. Yet Cale knew numbers were not the only danger. Strategy and skill could make a few enemies deadly. Lyra pointed to a distant building half collapsed but still standing. "We can use that as a vantage point. From there we can monitor the drones and see if there are any changes in their patrol patterns." Cale nodded. "Good, let's move carefully. One wrong step and we could be surrounded." They crossed the streets with quiet precision, avoiding broken glass, debris, and unstable walls. Lyra led him through narrow alleys and behind ruined vehicles, constantly pointing out potential hazards. Kale was impressed despite himself. Her knowledge of the enemy and the city's hidden paths was unmatched. As they approached the building, a faint rumble echoed from above. Kale crouched instinctively, scanning the sky. Several alien ships were moving in formation, faster than the previous patrols. "They're regrouping," he said grimly. "Something bigger is coming. Not just drones, full strike units." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "That's not just a patrol. They are preparing to attack survivors. If we don't act fast, many could die." Kale clenched his fists. His memories of loss, the screams, the fire, the helplessness rushed back, burning like fire in his chest. He had survived, yes, but only barely. Others might not be so lucky. He knew that if he did not act, more deaths would follow. "We need allies," he said finally. "I can't do this alone. You know your people better than I do. Are there others who feel the same way you do?" Lyra hesitated. "Some may help, but most still follow orders without question. If we are seen together, it could cause conflict. We must move carefully." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then we find the ones who will fight, not the ones who will obey blindly. We don't have time for hesitation." They reached the vantage point, a half-collapsed tower with a clear view of the surrounding streets. Kale climbed to the highest stable floor, carefully balancing on broken beams and rubble. From there he could see several patrols moving methodically, scanning for survivors and distant ships hovering silently in the sky. Lyra studied the patterns, her eyes sharp. "The ships will strike in waves," she said. "First the drones to flush out survivors, then the main strike units. But if we can disrupt the first wave, we can prevent the rest." Kyle nodded, formulating a plan in his mind. "We need to hit them fast and hard, disrupt the drones, force the ships to retreat, and show that survivors are not defenseless. Then we find allies among other survivors, humans and those aliens who do not agree with the attack." Lyra's voice was steady but serious. "It will be dangerous. We will need precise timing. One mistake and we could be wiped out before anyone else even knows what happened." Kale's jaw tightened. "I've survived worse. We plan carefully, we strike carefully, and we survive. No hesitation." For hours they observed the patrols, memorizing their movements, learning their weaknesses. Kale's memory and strategic mind worked alongside Lyra's knowledge of alien technology. It was an uneasy partnership built on necessity, but it was effective. As evening approached, they prepared for action. Kale checked his weapons, making sure every shot counted. Lyra reviewed the plans in her mind, imagining the best routes, timing, and contingencies. They both understood that survival depended not only on skill but on trust, a fragile trust that had yet to fully form. Night fell, and the first wave of drones approached. Kale and Lyra waited, hidden in shadows, hearts pounding. Kale's mind replayed every lesson he had learned during his months of survival: patience, observation, timing, and striking with precision. Lyra whispered, "Now, the path is clear. We can disrupt the patrol without being detected." Kyle moved first, carefully navigating through debris, avoiding loose rubble that could betray their position. Lyra followed, guiding him through weak spots in the drone's scanning range. They reached a narrow street where the drone's patrol pattern created a small blind spot. Kale signaled. With precision, he disabled the first drone with a small explosive, sending it crashing into the rubble. Lyra acted simultaneously, hacking into the systems of nearby drones, causing confusion and temporary malfunctions. One by one, the patrols were disrupted, their formations breaking apart. From above, Kale could see the larger ships reacting to the disruption. Their formation faltered, and some retreated to regroup. The plan was working, but the danger was far from over. Lyra glanced at him. "They'll send reinforcements soon. We need to move to higher ground and prepare for the next phase." Kale nodded, his mind racing. "We also need allies. If we can show survivors that the enemy is vulnerable, more will join us. We need strength in numbers." They moved quickly to another vantage point, signaling to nearby survivors who had hidden from the attacks. At first, the humans were skeptical, seeing an alien with one of the few remaining survivors. But Kale's leadership and Lyra's knowledge convinced them to join the plan. By dawn, a small group had formed, humans armed with whatever they could find, some alien defectors who disagreed with the attacks, and Kale and Lyra leading them. Together, they represented the beginning of resistance, a fragile, untested alliance, but a force capable of survival. Kyle addressed the group. We cannot rely on luck. We must rely on skill, planning, and each other. The enemy thinks we are weak, but we will show them that the human spirit is not so easily broken. Lyra stood beside him, her expression serious. I will guide you. I know the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. Together we can survive and fight back, but we must be careful. One mistake could cost all of us. The group prepared, fortified their position, and waited. The next wave of enemy drones approached, faster and more coordinated. Kale and Lyra had predicted it, and their plan went into action. Humans and alien defectors worked together, using the knowledge Lyra had shared to set traps, block paths, and disable drones. The battle was tense but controlled. Kale's strategy and leadership, combined with Lyra's insider knowledge, allowed them to disrupt the enemy's plans effectively. For the first time in months, Kale felt a sense of empowerment. He was no longer just surviving. He was fighting back. As the drones retreated, Kale addressed the group again. We've won this battle, but not the war. The enemy will regroup. They will come again. But today we survived. Today we showed them that survivors are not helpless. And tomorrow we will fight smarter, stronger, and together. Lyra looked at him, a mixture of relief and determination in her eyes. You lead well, Kale. And you remind us all why we fight. The human spirit. It is stronger than most realize. Kale nodded, but his gaze remained focused on the horizon. The danger was far from over. The memory of his lost world remained, fueling his determination to survive, protect, and rebuild. The alliance they had formed was fragile, yes, but it was a start, a small spark of hope in a city of ruins. As dawn broke over the city, Kale and Lyra stood side by side, leading their growing band of survivors. They had faced danger together, learned to work as a team, and taken the first steps toward resisting a powerful enemy. But the path ahead was uncertain, full of challenges and fraught with danger. Kale remembered the past. Lyra remembered her guilt. And together they began the fight, not just for survival, but for the chance to reclaim their world from the ashes. The human spirit, unbroken by tragedy, continued to shine through the darkness. And even among ruins there was hope. Part 5. Redemption and Reconstruction. The first light of dawn crept across the ruined city, casting long shadows over shattered buildings and broken streets. Kale stood on the rooftop of a crumbled tower, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The small force of survivors he had gathered, humans and alien defectors alike, were below, preparing for the coming battle. Lyra stood at his side, scanning the skies with a sharp eye. Kyle's memories of the destruction were sharp, as vivid as the day it had occurred. He remembered the fire, the screams, the desperation, but he also remembered survival. The skills that had kept him alive, the strategies that had given him a chance when everything seemed lost. Those memories now fueled his determination. This fight was not just about revenge, it was about protecting what remained, about rebuilding a future from the ashes. Lyra spoke softly, breaking the tense silence. They are approaching, Kale. The rogue faction is moving faster than we anticipated. Their attack will be fierce, Kyle nodded. Good, let them come. We've prepared, we've trained, and we know their weaknesses. Today we show them that survivors are not easy prey. The survivors below moved with purpose, setting traps, fortifying weak positions, and taking defensive stances. Kyle walked among them, offering instructions and encouragement, his presence a steadying force. The humans trusted him, hesitant but willing to follow his lead. The alien defectors, though still cautious of him, followed Lyra's guidance. Together they formed a fragile but determined alliance. As the first wave of enemy ships appeared on the horizon, Kale's voice rang out. Remember your training. Stay calm, use the terrain. Work together. We survive as one or we fall alone. Lyra nodded beside him. I will coordinate the defenses. Trust me, Kale, we can do this. The enemy ships descended with precision, drones flying ahead to flush out survivors, followed by larger attack vessels. But Kale and Lyra's group was ready. Traps were sprung, drones disabled, and the first wave faltered. Human ingenuity, combined with Lyra's knowledge of alien tactics, allowed them to disrupt the enemy's advance. Kale moved swiftly among the defenders, his presence inspiring courage. He directed teams to weak points, moved quickly to block paths, and struck at drones with calculated precision. Every action was deliberate, every decision critical. The human survivors, inspired by his leadership, fought with a determination born from the loss they had endured and the hope they now held. Lyra worked alongside him, hacking into the enemy's communication systems, feeding false information, and guiding the defectors to strike at key points. Together, Kale and Lyra became a force the enemy had not anticipated. Humans and aliens working together against a common threat. Despite the chaos, Kale's mind remained sharp, recalling every lesson from the past months. He remembered the panic, the confusion, the helplessness he had felt when his world was destroyed. That memory now became a weapon, guiding his strategy, ensuring that the enemy could not exploit the same weaknesses again. The battle raged for hours. Drones were destroyed, patrols dismantled, and enemy reinforcements delayed. Kale's group held strong, using every tactic they had learned, every ounce of skill and courage. Lyra's guidance proved invaluable, and slowly the tide began to turn. The rogue faction's forces faltered, unprepared for the coordinated resistance of survivors who had learned, adapted, and refused to give up. Kale's gaze shifted to the skyline. He saw one of the larger attack ships faltering, its formation disrupted by the combined efforts of his group. He realized that victory was possible, not complete victory, but enough to protect the survivors and reclaim a measure of control. Lyra touched his arm gently. "They're weakening. If we push now, we can force them to retreat." Kale nodded, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we push. No hesitation. We finish this." Together, Kale and Lyra led a coordinated strike. Humans and alien defectors moved with precision, disabling key drones, taking down weak points in the larger ships, and forcing the enemy to retreat. The rogue faction, realizing they could not overcome this determined resistance, began to fall back, leaving the survivors in control of their city once more. The streets fell silent after the last drone retreated. Kale and Lyra stood among the survivors, breathing heavily but alive. The group had survived. The human spirit had endured, and the alien who had once been part of the destruction had proven herself a vital ally. Kale looked at Lyra, his eyes hard but thoughtful. "You helped save lives today. That does not erase the past, but it matters now. You have done well." Lyra nodded, relief and humility in her expression. "Thank you, Kale. I only wanted to make a difference, to help after everything I've done. I cannot undo the past, but I can try to make the future better." Kale's gaze drifted across the city, surveying the damage and the survivors. "The future? It will be hard. But today we survived, and survival is the first step toward rebuilding." He turned to address the group. "Listen, we've faced the worst this city could throw at us, but we are still here, and now we must rebuild. Not just for ourselves, but for the memory of those we lost. We rebuild stronger, smarter, and together. This city can rise again, and we will ensure that humanity, and those who choose to fight with us, endures." The survivors nodded, inspired by Kale's words. Even those who had doubted the alien among them began to see the value of cooperation, realizing that survival depended on unity, not division. Lyra spoke quietly to Kale, her eyes scanning the streets below. "We can start planning reconstruction. We can gather supplies, organize survivors, and protect what remains. It will take time, but it's possible." Kale nodded slowly. "Yes, step by step. Today we fought. Tomorrow we rebuild. And one day, this city will be a place where life can flourish again." The sun rose higher, illuminating the ruins in golden light. Though the city was still scarred, there was hope in the hearts of those who survived. Kale and Lyra walked through the streets, offering guidance, encouragement, and protection. The survivors began to gather materials, clear debris, and make temporary shelters. Every action, no matter how small, was a step toward recovery. Kale remembered the pain, the loss, and the fire that had taken so much, but he also remembered survival, strategy, and the courage of those who had stood beside him. And now he realized he had a chance to shape the future, not just react to the past. Lyra stayed close, her presence a reminder of the fragile but important alliance they had formed. She had once been part of the destruction, but now she was a part of the reconstruction, using her knowledge and skills to help Kale and the survivors rebuild what remained. As the day passed, more survivors emerged from hiding, drawn by the sound of life, the signs of organization, and the hope that someone had taken control. Humans and defectors joined forces, pooling knowledge, resources, and determination. Kale guided them, teaching them strategies for defense, survival, and rebuilding, while Lyra provided insight into alien technology that could aid their efforts. Even as night fell, the city no longer felt entirely broken. Fires burned in controlled spaces, shelters were fortified, and the people who had once wandered in fear now moved with purpose. Kale watched over them, remembering the world that had been lost, but also recognizing the possibilities that still remained. Finally, as the stars appeared in the night sky, Kale and Lyra stood on the rooftop of the rebuilt tower. The city below was still a ruin, but it was alive. Survivors moved with determination, hope flickering in their eyes. And though the memory of the past would never fade, there was a future worth fighting for. Kale looked at Lyra. "We've done what we could today. The past is still with us, but so is the future. And if we keep fighting, keep surviving, maybe one day this world can be whole again." Lyra nodded. "We will keep fighting, Kale, together." Kyle allowed a small, rare smile to cross his face. It was not forgiveness he would never forget, but it was acknowledgement. Trust, however fragile, had begun to form. Humanity had survived the greatest disaster, and now, with the alien who once caused destruction standing beside them, they had a chance to rebuild. The city, scarred but alive, stood as a testament to survival, courage, and the enduring human spirit. Kyle's memories of loss would always remain, but now they were balanced by the memory of survival, resilience, and the hope that even in the darkest times, humans and those who chose to stand with them could endure. And as the night sky stretched endlessly above, the survivors of the shattered world prepared for the days ahead, ready to reclaim their home, rebuild their lives, and prove that the human spirit could rise from ashes stronger than ever before.